Broadcasts of the City of Neenah Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin-Fox Valley. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents via the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues or about these broadcasts by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or by completing the electronic feedback form on the city website, www.neenahgov.org. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.
I would like to call to order the meeting of the Neenah Common Council for Wednesday, June 5th, 2019. The first item on the agenda tonight is the roll call. The members will answer the clerk as your name is called and sign in on the roll call machine, please.
Alderman Boyette.
Here.
Bates.
Here.
Lang.
Here.
Lendrum.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Spellman.
Here.
Steele.
Here.
Coons.
Here.
Stevenson.
Here. There are 9 members present. There's a quorum present. I'd like to ask you to join us, stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Will be led tonight by Council President Stevenson.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you all very, very much for coming tonight. We're pleased that you're here. We have, it's an exciting, fun night tonight. We get any night that you can give your employees recognition and present some new promotions and officers and that, and highlight the wonderful job that their public safety services do for this community. It's a good night. So we'd like to thank everyone once again for coming. We are going to start out with the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue presentation of some employee awards. They'll be given by Chief Clone. Chief, come on up. Welcome.
I'll tell you that being recognized as a job. Whoever will do your job, money, what do you do? Most things. After time. Also, idea what we opportunity. We'll take the ceremony. Very cool. Most of the board nominate. They'll have that. I'd like to thank you. Nice. all heard. First of all, APR book. Reason. This was vehicle and being safely task book driver. Next words are driver.
Where is he?
9,000. Not sure we were going to keep our because it didn't fit the current. Their efforts of these portable Joe is one of our right up. Joe different week. But words. Asking to achieve education. Goals include application, leadership, provides an opportunity for educational endeavors. Other problems. Testing that is back.
Thank you very much, Chief. Congratulations, and thank you all for that. We will then move on to the swearing in of a new officer, followed by some announcements of some promotions of some law enforcement personnel. Welcome, Chief Olson.
It's warm in here. Oh, it's so warm in here. You are right. Okay.
in. All right, Mayor, Council, family, friends, Neenah Police Department, thank you for tonight. This is a very special night for not only our newest officer, but all these men and women who are being promoted, or have been promoted. It's a special night for the police department. In the past, we've never had these ceremonies for fighters, but we feel it's important to celebrate the successes of all of our members. So, I'm just going to introduce everybody and along with their family members. So first we have William Mendel, and he graduated from UWL.
Yeah, I'm going to just sweep across the whole thing.
Very intelligent young man, and we're very happy that he's getting a number of the police department. And he's here with his mother, Nancy. Mulroy, and our newest canine, Bobby. So I'm not sure how he's going to put the paw on the Bible. Next we have Stephanie Gruss. She's our newest investigator. She's been with the Neenah Police Department just for 6 months. Well, she came from the National PD after 17 years. And she'll have her father, Ronald, pin a badge, and her mother, Susan. Next, we have Jeremy Bauman. He's been with us for 13 years. And his 2 children are autistic. Next, we have Pat Pedersen over here. He's been with us for 27 years. Not to state you, Pat, but that's older than me. He looked great. And he is Brett Favre's double, if you ever know. And Diane, his girlfriend, will be holding the Bible. And his mother, Linda, pinning the badge, and his mother, Linda, will be holding the Bible. Jason Fossler, he's been with us for 2 years. He's our newest patrol sergeant. But he came to us from the Winnebago County years. So he's been in law enforcement for 8 years now. And his wife, Jacqueline, will be holding pinning the badge. And his children, Joshua and Jordan, will be holding the badge. You guys will also do a great job, right? Next, we have Jason Getz, is our newest patrol lieutenant. He's been with us for 11 years, and prior to that, worked for Winona, one of those slippers.
Not Neenah.
And he has his wife Laura here, who will be pinning the badge, and his son Waylon will be holding the Bible. Waylon will also do a fantastic job. And next, we have Captain Jeff Bernice, is our newest captain. He's been with us for 3 months, and he retired from the Fort Myers Police Department after 20 years. He's doing a great job, and his son Richie will be pinning the badge, and his daughter Raven will be holding the badge. And last but not least, we have Chris Siebert. He's been with us for 21 years, and prior to that, he worked for Milwaukee PD for 5 years. And he'll have his daughter Caitlin pinning the badge, and his aunt Dee holding the Bible. And normally, I would talk a lot about each individual person, but obviously we don't have much time. But I can tell you, as a group, every one of these people are extremely positive. They're dedicated, and every day they come to work, they're always smiling and do a fantastic job. I wish I could talk more about every single person, but so with that, we will call for Eddie to come up and have everyone swear. And if the family members who's holding the Bible, if you could stand on their left side so they can raise their right hand.
Right, if you'll all raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name.
I, Jason Foster,
Having been appointed, and state your appointment.
having been appointed as the Grove Sergeant
For the city of Neenah,
for the city of Neenah,
Winnebago County,
Winnebago County,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the state of Wisconsin
of the state of Wisconsin
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States,
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
of and state your appointment
of the investigator
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations to everyone.
Great job. Next, we will have Maxwell Huxell, Neenah First Presbyterian Church. Welcome back.
These badges always all
No drawing blood.
Family members, you guys.
Bobby, left-handed or right-handed?
Yeah.
paw print.
He was until that. You can't. Maybe they could do.
While they're signing the oath,
Bring cookies next time.
Hey, Chief.
Once in a while, I feel a little blessed.
Bring some by.
It's good there for a few minutes.
Oh, bring them next.
Never been. I've never been picky.
Oh,
Congratulations.
congratulations.
Chief, thank you very much. Officers, families, we appreciate all of you coming tonight. This is what really makes this community special. On behalf of the council and myself, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for what you do for us day in and day out, protecting the citizens of the city of Neenah and taking good care of us, police, fire, EMS services, and we're proud of you, and we appreciate the jobs you do each and every day.
Yeah.
I hope you're not back to school.
Yeah, good hits, guys.
Sort of. I'm really glad we're behind you because it seems so scary to me.
Sugar-free cough drops.
He's adorable.
Chris is sweating a little. He thought Bobby was going to do a walkthrough here.
Oh, okay.
Don't bring up my
Oh, because it's old. It should have been in.
All right, thank you once again.
Schedule it.
We'll just give the crowd here a minute to disperse, so.
There, now I feel a little air. I think she's right.
And like 10 to 11. But you can pick the night you want. And I thought it was so interesting. My son did it, and my husband also went on one. And it's just interesting because every ride along. Yeah. And two of them, my son's age, get into one bus. Yeah.
ran 15. Yeah, you need it?
I got one.
So they're not signed yet.
All right, thank you very much again. Chief, thank you for coming.
But, you know,
Everyone, we will continue our program, the agenda tonight with item number 2 is introduction and confirmation of some mayor's appointments. Mayor Crawford's reappointment of Grant Birch and Al Long to the Board of Review for 5-year terms that will expire June 2024. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the mayor's appointments.
There's a motion to approve by Alderman Stevenson, seconded by Alderman Bates. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, vote aye. All opposed, vote no, using the roll call machine. No, we could do unanimous consent, that's all right. That motion passes 9-0. We have Mr. Birch here. We'll do the swearing in of him after we confirm the next appointments. Item number B, Mayor Crawford's reappointment of Bonnie Flegel and James Sudlak on the Loan Assistance Board for 3-year term that expired June 2022. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the mayor's appointments.
There's a motion by Alderman
Second.
Stevenson, seconded by Alderman Lendrum. We'll do this one too with a roll call machine. All in favor, vote aye. All opposed, vote no, using the roll call machine. And then That motion passes 9-0. Mr. Birch, come on up, Grant. Thank you for coming. Is there anything you'd like to tell the group here? Good.
Blackmore says the firefighters and the policemen, but it's awfully nice to be able to serve.
Good.
Proud of the people and the quality that I've seen in the room today.
Good. Well, thank you. And thank you for what you do, because Grant, with the Board of Review, it's important. Grant is an attorney, and so he's a very valuable member of that Board of Review. It has been for some years and provides a lot of good insight, a lot of good advice to the committee, so we appreciate it.
All right, if you'll raise your right hand. I, Grant Birch,
I, Grant Birch,
having been appointed
having been appointed
to the Board of Review
to the Board of Review
of the City of Neenah,
of the City of Neenah,
Winnebago County,
Winnebago County,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of
of
Wisconsin,
the State of Wisconsin,
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
of a Board of Review member
of a Board of Review member
to the best of my
to the
ability,
best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Leave that on the back table. Sign it and leave it on the back table. Thank you.
All right. Thank you again. Approval, thanks for coming, Grant. Item number 3 is approval of the council proceedings of May 15, 2019. Is there a motion? There's a motion by Alderman Erickson, seconded by Alderman Stevenson. Any discussion, corrections, additions, or comments? Seeing none, unanimous consent that the minutes be approved. Any objection? That's ordered. Public hearing, there are none. No plan commissions or public services or safety committee reports pertaining to the public hearing. Item number 6 is the public forum. Public forum is an opportunity for any community member or any citizen to come before the council on any topic that they would like to discuss. Is there anyone here who would like to address the council? Seeing none, I will close the public forum. Moving on to item number 8 is the consent agenda. Consent agenda is listed in front of you. Is there a motion? Alderman Erickson moves. Oh, that's from the last one. I'm sorry.
Tammy, make them.
Adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay. Alderman Erickson moves, seconded by Alderman Stevenson, to approve the consent agenda. Alderman Bates?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull out item H, the Neenah High School Homecoming Parade,
H.
and I will report on it at the end of the Public Service and Safety Committee.
All right, thank you. Alderman requests item number H be removed from the consent agenda and will be reported out during the Public Service Safety Committee report. Any other comments? Seeing none, is there any objection to unanimous consent to approve the consent agenda? Any objections? Seeing none, that's ordered. Report of the standing committees. Regular Public Service Safety Committee meeting of May 28th. Chairman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. The minutes can be found on the city website. Committee recommends Council adopt Ordinance 2019-14, amending Article 4, Division 3 of the Municipal Code relating to noise violations, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman
Second.
Bates, seconded by Alderman Lundrum. Discussion. Alderman Bates.
No, that was left over from the other one.
I'm sorry.
That was left over from the
Okay.
consent agenda.
Alderman Coons, would you like to comment on this?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So when I look at this, I have 2 questions trying to resolve. One is, it looks as if we're trying to be more specific in putting decimal levels on different pieces. At least when I looked at it, it looks like the maximum decibel level is 75. I look at the entire ordinance. I had to go back to the ordinance to see the whole thing. Looking at the exemptions, and there's a few exemptions for, a very few exemptions for emergency vehicles, and that's about it. when I look up other things, the standard lawnmower is 80 decibels. Leaf blowers, which everyone seems to use for just about everything nowadays, are higher than that. So I look at this, I'm going, that means every single person is going to break this ordinance every single day, all the time. I'm not quite sure how we're going to enforce this. And maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's some exemption here that we can go over 75 decibels. At the same time, every morning, not every morning, but almost every day I go out and I hear this big, huge hum of some industrial noise. I don't know where it's coming from. I never been able to figure it out. We live in surrounded by industrial buildings that make lots of noise, and they go over 75 decibels. I can guarantee you that. So I'm concerned about how we set this up, and and what it means, and how citizens are going to know that they can't use their leaf blower or whatever it might be. So that's my first question. The second one would be, when this first came about, so many years ago, one of the issues was vibration, and part of the thing is decibels didn't get at vibration. You know, when that car goes through and that bass is making your windows rattle, it doesn't hit the decimal level reading. Same thing we had with the rail car and sugar shaking and all those kind of things, which doesn't seem to be addressed here particularly. So those are my two questions I'm trying to understand. The decimal level piece really has me confused. Based on standard noise levels of many things. So I don't know if this is for the committee chair, city attorney can help me understand this ordinance, the changes to this ordinance.
Alderman Bates, did you want me to? My understanding is that this was based on a comparison of other municipal ordinances, and the decibel levels were taken from those examples of others that exist out there that the assistant city attorney looked at. The decibel limits for certain equipment would be rather low. I would agree with that.
I mean, I suggest. I mean, for me, I get what we're trying to do here, and I agree with the overall attempt. I'm just worried about the detail of the decimal levels. I don't know if this wants to, I hate to send things back to committee, but take a look at this. Chainsaws, 110 decibels. I mean, it just, I can go on and on about different decimal levels. And so I just concerned about how this is going to be helpful for us based on the decibel levels.
Well, the decibel levels themselves will give us an objective measurement of the noise, so it'll be easier to determine if there's a violation. I think the question that you raised that wasn't raised prior to this was whether these levels are sufficient enough to accommodate the kind of activity that will occur in the city.
At the same time, I remember the housing unit going in over off by, I'm forgetting the door place, Eggers. And I remember them, certain people, representatives coming and saying, if you're going to put housing next to us, we have vacuums and everything else. We make noise, and we all of a sudden don't want to be in violation. I remember that conversation back then. And so I worry that, again, I would think most of our industrial properties are going to be in violation of this every day.
Okay. The issue about vibrations and so forth would not be covered by the decibel levels. That's covered by another section in the noise code that's not being changed.
No, with Eggers in particular, they use vacuums, and they made a lot of noise. And the foundry makes a lot of noise. The railroad makes a lot of noise. I'm not sure if they're in if we cover them, but so what I mean, if I don't see how I'm wondering how it's helpful if everyone's going to break it all the time, whether we set up a 75 decibels or not and try to define it. I'm not sure how you enforce it because I'm going to break it. I'm going to break it in a couple of days when I mow my lawn. So,
well, it isn't what we talked about. One of the things we talked about, it's those items, and I looked up some of them also the other day. Those items are 70 decibels or 90 decibels, but that's at their ear when that's from me to him when you're using it. The law, as I understand it, is at so many feet from the person. So those decibel levels aren't that at that certain how many feet it is. I mean, and I think if you go online, you'll see a leaf blower at your ear when you're holding the leaf blower is 75 to 80. but 50 feet away, it's only 45.
I can guarantee you, my neighbors use leaf blowers excessively, and it's loud. My windows closed, and the, you know, and you look at, you can stand in the golf course and you can hear the foundry pretty loudly from that distance.
Okay.
It's just we again with our industrial environment, and I think the idea is great. I'm just not sure of the execution of it.
Okay, Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question for Attorney Godlewski. How did this come about? Why was this brought forward to change our ordinance?
The police department indicated that they were having difficulty with the more generic noise ordinance that we had before that didn't have decibel levels in it. They are acquiring the decibel meters to be able to measure the noise so that they have a more objective means of presenting to the court when there's a noise violation. This has been an ongoing issue for years, and they were finally able to beef up their equipment so that they can deal with noise based on objective standards. And so we needed to put standards into the code to accommodate the use of decibels as a measurement.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. Part of this was brought forward, too, from specifically looking at some of the automobile and motorcycle noises. But I certainly can see what Alderman Coons is saying about that. It is kind of a cutoff, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You just have this, and you might have something that's intermittent. I could see that as being something added to the ordinance, because I could see that you're using a leaf blower for 45 minutes, an hour, whatever it is. But if you're using it for 8 hours straight, at that point, I'm going, any neighbors in the area would be disturbed, and it's unreasonable. I also believe that part of this, when we were looking at some of the noises on motorcycles and automobiles, had to do with you can't necessarily whip out your decibel meter at that point. And so part of it had to do with there is some discretion with the police officer who is doing this to start that process off too. So not necessarily we'll have that. But as the attorney said, we need some way to have some teeth in it. Otherwise, if you don't have any levels on it, it's hard to say. If we did clock you in at a certain thing, but we don't have any register saying, well, this is not allowed in the city, then it's very hard to prosecute. And another side of it is if one of the citizens is using their leaf blower and it's, you look outside and you see that it's just a small area that they're doing, I doubt many neighbors are going to be calling it in. And it's another one of these, we don't necessarily go around with a decibel meter at every driveway and see what's going on. So a lot of it is call driven. But I certainly could see that if there needs to be some comment in there about longevity of the noise or something like that, because every one of us might have something that would cause the go way above that. Thank you.
Alderman Coons.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Alderman Boyette, and Alderman Coons.
I just want to say I'm probably, me and Danae and Carrie are probably the three exceptions to this, because across the street from us is Menasha. And those sounds come across the street. There's no wall. So our officers are not going to respond to the Menasha side of Nicolay to take care of this ordinance. I'm wondering if maybe this needs to be specific to just automobiles, or I don't know. But again, we're three of the, I guess, odd man out, because this affects us, but everybody else doesn't have another city across the street that doesn't have the same ordinance. So
people have the town of Neenah. People have, Todd's got town of Neenah next to them. So that's not true. Everybody's got
a border town.
A border town.
Oh.
But
my response would, if I have a neighbor that lives in the town of Neenah violating noise ordinance, I'm going to have a difficult time getting it to stop.
Yep.
Yeah. This provides a tool to help us manage noise, gives us some quantitativity to quantifiable numbers for police department, which came to us and asked us to provide this, it gives them a tool to help in cases where it can't.
So if I may.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So with this tool, then, would I still, being a resident on Nicolay, would I still call my police department and have a record made with the decibels so I can take that to the neighboring city and file my complaint there? Or are they not going to respond to that because it's not occurring? You know what I mean? Like, this isn't spelled out, and I'm looking for guidance.
If you call the city Neenah PD, I'm sure they'll transfer to, dispatch will transfer it to a Menasha officer to go check out.
Okay.
But it'll be under Menasha's ordinance.
Just like if you saw a speeder in front of you,
Well, and
side of
I get
Nicolay
that.
Boulevard,
Yep.
our officers can't go. Well, they can, but
Yep. No, you're right. I sat here and listened to Alderman Coons talking about the loudness of motors, and the Menasha residents have to drive down my side of the road to get to their house because it's a one-way boulevard. So yeah, by the time the call gets dispatched to my address to catch, or say, the speeder or the violation, they're already in the other towns or cities. So I'm just wondering how this would be handled.
Again, if the noise, as Alderman Stevenson indicated, and the mayor indicated, if the noise is coming from the city of Menasha property, the Menasha Police Department would have to be the one to come out and enforce it if it was violating the Menasha ordinance.
Okay.
I don't know what the standards are under that ordinance. It may be different.
And I don't either. Yeah, I don't either. So maybe with this ordinance, it might be good to have a PSA on that we don't bog down our police department with it if you're on a bordering, if the sound is coming from another area,
The chief talked in committee that they'd prefer to have an office to do this because the legal, having a CSA who's not trained, it would be better to have an officer. But
so again, just to refresh, I would call Neenah, not Menasha, to have it handled if it was coming from Menasha.
That's where I would start.
Okay, thank you.
I think you could call either, really. But Alderman Coons.
Thank you, Mayor. I brought up a problem without offering a solution, and I want to do that. I think maybe an easy solution would be look at the exemptions such as through 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. We exempt your standard maintenance of home and yard, which would take care of all those different kinds of things. Someone either fixing their house or fixing their lawn, and they're going to make some noise. And we allow for that for the exemption. The other exemption might be industrial that has been established for so long. I'm not sure how this would word, but whatever else, that we might exempt them from a higher level. Obviously, we're going to start writing the foundry tickets every day because they go above 75 decimals. They've been here for much longer than I have, and so I think through exemption we could find a reasonable path to solve the solution of those items like lawnmowers and chainsaws and circular saws and all the things that happen, and industrial noise as well. But I think the exemption is probably the place to do it. We probably need to add a few. That's my suggestion.
Go ahead, Jim.
The current ordinance does have provisions for allowing. The problem is you don't have the complete ordinance here.
But I have it on my screen. I just pulled it up.
Okay.
Look at it.
It does prohibit the use of lawnmowers and equipment like that after 9 p.m. There is a restriction. It can't be used again until after 7 a.m. in the morning.
But there's no exemption to say, again, anytime I use it, I'm still above 75. We made that. It doesn't. That the 75 doesn't jive with the rest of the ordinance. I don't, or the resolution. I don't believe, because I think you were trying to deal with situations like that with the lawnmowers, but now with decimals, it doesn't work. And so I think it has to be through exemptions. I think it probably needs another look at. Be my thought. And I think, again, if you're going to put decimals, the whole thing has to be reviewed in a greater depth, I think, because I think it changes other sections.
Are you making a motion?
Well, I was just going to suggest, I mean, we're not going to debate this here and spend 2 hours and figure it out here. So if there's someone who'd like to send this back to committee, I thought the committee had done a good job of answering the questions. The police officers always have discretion. There's officers' discretion on everything. So, but if we want to send it back to committee and take another look at it, I think that would be the proper motion rather than, we're not going to fix it here unless you have an amendment.
I would make that motion.
Okay. There's a motion to refer this back to the Public Services and Safety Committee. Right? Is there a second to that motion? Alderman Lundrum? Is that you? No. Is there a second to refer this back?
There seems to be difficulty whether we have to do that electronically or verbally.
I seconded it. But it
Christopher
didn't
made a
work.
motion, but it's not noted electronically.
Right.
So Tammy's down there trying to second it, but I don't know,
Okay,
is that the correct protocol?
Can you hit them? There you go. So there's a motion by Alderman Coons to refer this back to the Public Service Safety Committee, seconded by Alderman Erickson. Alderman Erickson, you were in the queue to speak. Would you like to speak?
Just one quick question. What do you do about, we always get complaints from concerts and that sort of thing. So how are they affected by this? And I guess Attorney Godlewski, if you could answer that.
There is exceptions for, again, in the complete ordinance for music performances that are in public parks, and as long as they end by a certain time. I think 10 o'clock is the cutoff point for that.
But so they don't fall into the decibel reading at all?
I don't,
because I thought there was some decibel, they did some decibel readings for some concerts that were Riverside Players, I know, was one of the issues, and then the concert at Shattuck Park was an issue for some.
I don't think there were actual numbers.
I thought they actually did some decibel readings for those. And
we've taken decibel
Okay.
readings at those
Yep.
events to see where we were at for the neighbors from certain distances from the actual event. I don't think there's an actual number in ordinance or anything, but we as a community at the request of constituents have sent officers out to take some
Okay.
decibel readings.
so they are exempt from this.
Yeah, the talks about other outdoor events, outdoor gatherings, public dances, shows, and sporting events, and other similar outdoor events, provided that the permit has been obtained from the appropriate permitting authority. It's already in the ordinance.
Okay.
So that covers those.
All right, anyone else? Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick thing on noise that comes from another township. It's similar to what we have going with smoke. And I've been told by the fire department that if you have smoke coming from the township and it's blowing in your window, call them and they will figure out what's going on.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion and a second to send this back to committee and take a second look at it, okay? All in favor of that motion will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. Sorry. We'll get the hang of it. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 6-3 to send it back to committee.
Committee recommends council approve the distribution easement for underground for We Energy's work request 4243034 on the Bergstrom Mahler Museum site, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates, seconded by Alderman
Second.
Lundrum. Discussion. Questions? Seeing none. All in favor, vote aye. All opposed, vote no. The roll call machine. That motion passes 9-0.
The committee recommends council approve entering into professional services agreement with Ayers Associate for Phase 2 of the downtown traffic study in the amount of $49,000. utilizing the $45,000 in the 2019 budgeted TID 10 funds and $42.90 in unspent TID 10 reserves, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates,
Second.
seconded by Alderman Stevenson. Any questions, comments, or discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine. That also passes 9-0.
Committee recommends council adopt ordinance 2019-13, amending Article 4, Stormwater Management Services, and I would so move.
Motion by Alderman Bates, seconded by Alderman Coons. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no on this item. That motion passes 9-0.
The committee recommends council approve the permanent limited easement for trail construction along the west side of Pendleton Road, abutting the Pendleton Park apartment development, and I would so move, and I believe that goes along with the information Jerry had sent out. Is that correct?
That's correct. I had intended for that to be included in the council packet, and I did not communicate that appropriately to Jim and Patty. So I apologize for that. The
Wait, let me
handout
get this motion
is the.
in there.
Pardon?
Now, sorry.
Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates, seconded by Alderman Lundrum. Director Kaiser.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so what you have in front of you is the actual easement that was discussed at the committee level. A 2-foot easement, legal description is basically looking at the whole parcel that development complex is on. That is Lot 1 of Certified Survey Map 7209. And the easement is simply over the easterly 2 feet of that lot. So that'll take care of the extent of what we need.
All right, thank you for that explanation. Discussion on this item. It was brought up in committee. I'd like to just say that this easement that was granted by Pendleton Park LLC will save the city and the taxpayers and the TIF district a lot, almost over approximately $80,000 because of the moving of the lines and the electrical lines and that would have had to been made at our expense. So we appreciate this easement and the cooperation that was given for this easement. All in favor of the motion will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 9-0.
The committee recommends approval of the street use permit for the Neenah High School Homecoming Parade. Vicki Strabel, Representative, 1275 Tuller Road, Neenah, to be held on September 27th, 2019.
I'll move to approve that.
Alderman
Second.
Alderman Stevenson moves. Sure. Alderman Stevenson moves, seconded by
Person Lender.
Alderperson Lundrum. Thank you. To approve that item regarding the Neenah High School Parade. Discussion. Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. The reason I pulled this out of the consent agenda is last year when we approved this same route, we had as part of our motion that we would not approve the same route without them coming forward and finding another route because it does block the only two access points we have to the island, and on the island there is a level 2 trauma center. They didn't find any other routes that they wanted to go. They wanted to go by the lake. They wanted to go downtown. So they just left it. They did not send a representative. I know the mayor tried talking to them. I appreciate that. I did ask the mayor to send information over to the hospital to let them know to tell the physicians, because at one time we had a physician who was stuck, couldn't get to the hospital. It's not a date like July 4th or July 3rd that you kind of understand in the back of your mind there might be traffic, but this was something out of the blue, but they can send that out. I am just disappointed that they didn't try to find a different route or go along with anything, so I will be voting no.
Okay. Alderman Boyette.
I'm going to agree with Alderman Bates on this. That was part of the agreement last year, and that's why I will be voting no. They chose not to stick to their end of the agreement.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Alderman Stevenson.
Yeah, I think I'd like to ask the mayor to provide some feedback based on the results from last year. We had some concerns. And I was as adamant then a year ago that we attempt to manage our liability and exposure. I believe that the school district working with the police department did that. And I think the performance of the parade management would provide me enough comfort that the access to the hospital will be monitored, and that based on the management tools that they put in place last year at our request, that they have answered my concerns. I think it was I'll just leave it.
Right. Thank you for your comments. I would just add, I don't think there's anyone more vocal probably than me about the concerns that you raise with shutting down two major north-south arterials through the city at the same time, having a level 2 trauma center across the bridge there, which somewhat limits access from the south. I will say that we did ask them, and I did tell them that the council had granted a 1-year reprieve, so to speak. I think they did look, but maybe not real hard, because they really, number one, like that route that they take. As Alderman Stevenson points out, we did rely on the police department's expertise and recommendation that how they managed the parade route to somewhat ensure that there was always one of the two north-south major delivery of vehicles, that they were either able to access Oak Street or Commercial Street at the same at a time when they both would not be closed. The police department last year did a much better job, along with the school, on how they operated the parade. In addition to that, the police department told the committee that that they understand the concerns, they have them, but they believe in this day and age of technology with radio transmissions, the ability to talk to each other, police, fire, and Gold Cross. And I did also discuss this with Gold Cross. I asked them, and they all believe that in the event of emergency, they will get through. Their police department is putting in some other safeguards. They told me with CSAs are going to be positioned in such a way that they can monitor the traffic, not just at the intersection, but if someone farther back needs to get through, they will get through. So based upon the recommendation of the police department, I agreed to continue it in this current location. Also talked to Dr. Andrabi and told him we wanted to make sure in all of our events, but I don't think that one was on their radar, to ensure the physicians and that know that there might be a parade, or there will be a parade, or a slight delay could happen. So that has been added to the list of notifications, along with Gold Cross and a few others. James gave me a list of everyone that he does. The other thing is the parade is at 5 p.m. and not 4 p.m. The 1 year where there was some difficulty in traffic because everyone's leaving the downtown area at 4, we're also making sure that the major local businesses downtown know that there's a parade at 5 p.m. And so if they can have their work schedules to get most of their employees out before the parade starts, because by the time the parade gets down here from where they start, there's a little lag time too. So I asked James to put them on the schedule to inform their employees through email or whatever that they may want to get out of the work that Friday on time or a little early so they don't get caught up in the traffic down there. So while I understand your concerns, we're going to monitor it for another year. I told them that we're going to see if it works, and James will be there, and I'm going to probably also be there. But I'm giving the police department, who's asked for this, the benefit of the doubt. Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the other things that we requested last year was a breakdown of costs because we have these extra CSAs and things like that. I don't believe we got it, so I would request, should this pass, and it probably will, that we do get some money ideas from the extra personnel we have out there.
Okay, we can do that.
And get that for next year. Thank
you.
you.
All right, you note that in the minutes so that we make sure Joni or someone follows through with that. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, there's a motion and a second to take the item that was removed from the consent agenda, item number H, approve the street use permit for the Neenah High School Homecoming Parade to be held on September 27, 2019. All in favor, vote aye. All opposed, vote no. Using the roll call machine, please. That motion passes 7-2.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. There was no Finance and Personnel Committee meeting, so we will move on to other special committees or liaisons, project committees. No Plan Commission meeting was held. Committee of Rules met on tonight, June 5th, 2019. For that report, Chairman Coons.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one item, and as committee recommends, council approve Resolution 2019-14, amending original resolution number 7375, the structural and operational rules of the Sustainable Neenah Committee, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Coons. Seconded by Alderman Stevenson to approve resolution number 2019-14, which would amend resolution number 7375. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, vote aye. All opposed, vote no, using the roll call machine. That motion passes 9-0.
That's in my report.
Thanks for your report. Item number C is the Board of Public Works meeting on May 28th. Vice Chairman Bates has some information items, I believe, and one council action item. Go ahead, Alderman Bates.
Under the informational only items, the board approved pay estimate number 2 for contract 1-19, miscellaneous sewer and water main construction and street construction on Caroline Street, Stephen Street, and 5th Street to Carl Bowers and Sons Construction Company, Incorporated, Kaukauna, in the amount of $188,354.43. The board approved pay estimate number 2 for contract 2-19, miscellaneous sewer and water main construction and street construction on Stanley Street, Stanley Court, and Thomas Court to Robert J. Immel Excavating, Inc., Greenville, in the amount of $180,332.33. The board approved pay estimate number 3 for Washington Park Phase 3 to R&R Wash Materials, Incorporated, in the amount of $114,418.50. And the board approved pay estimate number 4 for the chemical storage and feed modification project to August Winter and Sons, Incorporated, in the amount of $54,500. As for council action item, the board recommends council award contract 5-19 for hot mix asphalt pavement repair to the low bid from MCC Incorporated, Appleton, in the amount of $84,985.80, and note the budgeted amount for this contract had been $125,000, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Lang to approve the pay request number 4 for the chemical, for the HMA pavement repair low bid from MCC Incorporated of Appleton. Discussion. Alderman Coons.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm trying to work in my question that's loosely related to this, and I'll look to the city attorney. But in regards to construction, this project and the ones prior, or many of the ones prior, I've heard the cost of construction and asphalt and concrete are all projected to increase much higher than inflation, and causing, I think, some concerns, partly from as we plan out things and the cost of those items, to be able to address those and to be able to continue our projects as costs escalate. I've heard of numbers of 10 to 15% per year related to this and many others. I'm just wondering if Dr. Kaiser has some input on that, or if this is something that we can at least put on some agenda to at least discuss.
Dr. Kaiser, you?
I have heard some similar things, at least in the short term, given some of the labor shortage issues that contractors are running into. In some cases, some materials issues that cost will be going up. At some point, you would expect that to at least level out. So the question really is, are we closer to our new normal here? Or in a couple of years, is it going to level out and stay there, or is it going to come back down ever? That rarely seems to happen. So I would say we, as we start looking forward on future projects, we are as conservative as we try to be in our estimates. Unfortunately, we're going to have to give ourselves a little more cushion on that.
Okay, that's a good question. A similar question was brought up during the discussion, Christopher, and I think so far this year we've had a couple contracts over, a couple contracts have come under projections. We have asked Director Easker, I think, to provide us kind of a running tally as we go through these contracts, so that the committee then knows where we're sitting for the year, so to speak. And that should help. If we all remember right, a lot of this is labor market. But I remember, and I kind of my time I shook my head that a few years ago the legislature said we're going to change prevailing wage, and that this was all going to have a huge 10% impact and lower costs. I don't think that had the impact that people thought it was going to, in my opinion, but so we'll see. But Jerry's on top of it, and I think it's a good cautionary thing to talk about. So, Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. With it being so far under budget, and we're always saying that we would like to improve the streets and items like this, since it is a contract that goes by materials as opposed to a project, is this something? What sort of permission or approval by the council if we wanted to do further than what maybe the scope of the original one was? I guess I'm asking the city attorney.
If you wanted to add additional projects, that would require a change order, and in terms of additional projects, that would be subject to the 15% rule. Individual amounts for the projects that have already been approved are not subject to the 15% rule because it's priced projects in there. But it would be a matter of adding on the recommendation of the Public Works Director, which additional projects might be accommodated by the additional money that was budgeted.
And just to touch on that, I mean, the budget that this comes from is also covering a good share of the cost of the concrete pavement repair under contract 418, and also some minor street work in the other two contract 1 and contract 2. So that particular line item that this one comes from is carved up in a bunch of different ways already.
So is that saying that the 84 up to 125, there might be other things that are taking part of that 125?
I would definitely say that the 125 would be a cap on anything that would be available
For
us
all
to
those
use.
projects?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we more or less have the plan set on the concrete side. We'll fill in as much as we can do on the asphalt side. As Jim said, we keep an eye on the bottom line for a number of those contracts, so that we're not going over that particular budget.
And I would say as one of 9, I would say if you have some ideas that can help out with what's going on out there, especially with the bad winter and everything, please bring it forth to at least Public Services or something. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you. Just so I'm clear on that, this is a unit. This is one of my traditional unit. I mean, like I was the big unit guy, right? Okay, so this is a unit contract that we've approved the contract up to $85,000, but the Director of Public Works has the authority to spend up to $125,000. Is that correct?
No, what happens is that because the contract amount is set on the amount of quantities are only estimates in the bid package.
Yep.
The final quantities will be determined at the end of the contract, and there's a variety of factors that might come into play where there might be additional gravel because of poor soil conditions,
Right.
or
Yep.
and that's why the 15% rule doesn't apply in that case, because once we figure out how much we actually did, then we can set the price. But if right now within that contract, I believe that there are individual projects identified within that. If you want to add additional projects to that contract, the 15% rule would apply to that.
So the scope of work in the streets has been identified. The actual quantities that we're going to end up paying for may vary based on the work that Jerry's team sees out there as they get into it.
Right.
So, and as always, Jerry will be reporting that during his regular public services and safety updates on projects, so the committee's aware of that.
Right.
I would suggest that other council members monitor Jerry's update of projects. So if you have a concern about units like I do, I'm a member of the committee, so I kind of track that. But as I hear things, if you're not a member of that committee and all of a sudden Jerry comes in with a final payment of $118,000 and the contract is only 85 or 84 or 9 or whatever it is, you'll understand why that is, how that gets managed. Because Jerry does a good job in public services and safety of updating that list, and the committee's pretty adamant about asking questions as to why and what's going on and where we are with the contract.
Right, and the final amount will be covered by a change order, so that what has actually been approved to spend is actually what is spent.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the explanation. There's a motion and a second to award contract 519. All in favor, vote aye. All opposed, vote no. Using the roll call machine. That motion passes 9-0.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. Landmarks Commission report. Is there any report tonight, Alderman Lang?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Landmarks Commission last met on May 14th. The group discussed the upcoming Discover Neenah Doty Island Family Day, which will be held on June 29th at Doty Park from 1 to 4 p.m. The Landmarks Commission will provide narrated walking tours within Doty Park to relay some of the interesting landmarks, both current and no longer present, within and adjacent to the park. They will also distribute their popular historic landmarks brochure. They also discussed the 4th annual Intertribal Powwow event and voted to support the Voyager canoe rides again this year. Those canoe rides highlight some of Neenah's historic properties on Wisconsin Avenue from the waterside view on the Fox River. Powwow will be held on September 21st from 12:30 to 4. That concludes my report.
All right. Thank you for your report. Item number E is the Sustainable Neenah Committee report. Alderman Coons.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report this time.
Other than tonight we changed the number and the makeup of the committee. Correct?
And that will help greatly in getting business done.
Good. Thank you. Item number F is a report on neighborhood group, the BID Business Improvement District Board. Alderman Lang.
Thank you, Mayor. The Business Improvement District Board met last on May 21st for their partnership cooperative meeting with the City of Neenah, Future Neenah, and the BID Board. The meeting was held at Myron Construction, and all areas of the BID function were discussed and reviewed. Sue Neitzel from UW Oshkosh served as the facilitator of this meeting. That concludes my report.
Thank you. If it's okay, Jane, I'd like to just expand on that just a hair. I think it's important people know this cooperative meeting that we have with Future Neenah and the BID district and us and everyone is very healthy, very it's informative because we make sure it's a partnership between all these groups, and this gives us a chance to kind of relook at things, see who's doing what, who's responsible for what streets, what parking lots. Is the BID doing this? Is the Future Neenah doing that? Public Works Department, our Parks Department, because it truly is a partnership with groups like a group like the BID District and Future Neenah. So we kind of just nail those things down, re-examine what we're doing to make sure it gets done so that people don't think that the other guy's doing it. And it really, that's one reason in my estimation is because of the great cooperation we have by the BID board and Jerry Kaiser's and Chris Hayes's departments, along with Park and Rec, who work with them. And one of the reasons why our downtown area and other areas of the city are doing so well is because of those types of agreements that we work this stuff out. So it was very nice to have that conversation. All right, thank you for your report, Alderman Lang. Item G is a Bergstrom-Mahler report. This will be Alderperson Spellman.
Thank you, Mayor. The last meeting was May 23rd. The current exhibit for the museum is called Reflecting Perspectives, Artists Confront Issues of Diversity and Inclusion. This exhibit runs until September 22nd. And I wanted to add that with current and upcoming changes in our community, I think it's especially important that we keep in mind that all people deserve dignity, respect, and inclusion. And I think that we can all agree that we would like Neenah to be known as a welcoming and accepting community. Other upcoming events are the Summer Solstice Celebration, Art After Dark. This is going to be held on June 20th from 7 to 10 p.m. And then the Arts Festival, which will be held on July 21st. This concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. Item number 11 is any petitions. There are no petitions. Item 12, council directives. Tonight we do have a vote on a council directive by Alderman Lendrum from the May 15, 2019 council meeting to add as a council directive directing community development staff to research and potentially propose a change to the zoning code restricting gravel driveways in residential zoning districts and requiring a one-car garage minimum for all residential new build structures in the city. All other homes would be grandfathered in. This research will most likely include researching other communities, understanding the impacts, extra costs for homeowners, benefits to the community, etc. There is a motion by Alderman Lendrum, seconded by Alderman Bates. Any discussion on that council directive? They have to make it again? Okay.
Oh.
Alderman Lendrum and Alderman Bates seconded. There you go. Now, Alderman, did the order change because of that? That's all right. Is that okay? Okay. Alderman Boyette.
Sorry about that. Okay.
It was like Jeopardy, the first to the button.
I just want to put my perspective on this. Although I understand where Alderman Lendrum is coming from, my concern with taking staff and requiring them to research and spend a lot more hours and time and money and et cetera on this when we have just spent and authorized to spend a lot of money redeveloping areas that's going to take away that staff from doing that work and place them into doing this. And I just don't think that we're doing our citizens due diligence by taking them away from a project that we've already spent a lot of money focusing on. So I don't know. I don't think that we have the staff that can do all this work, because this is going to take a lot of work. We're going to have to research it and then implement it. Director Hayes already has his staff at peak level working, trying to get the properties developed that we have spent money on, and get people to come into the city in some of our vacant properties. So I don't think this is a good time for this.
Okay. Alderman Lendrum?
Thank you, Mayor. I've already helped with some of that research, and it truly is not very much at all. It's just looking into surrounding communities' ordinances. It's not a huge deal. I've already talked to community development about it. What I'd like is, before anyone gets concerned about undue financial burden for example, habitat houses, which will be included in this, I would like a full discussion on Menasha's new program, and it sounds really wonderful. It's called Strong Neighborhoods, and I think you'll be really pleased. So I'm hoping that we can at least have the conversation about it. This does not mean in any way that you are voting for or against what I've suggested here. I just would like a conversation about it. Thank you.
Alderman Bates?
Thank you, Mayor. One of the reasons I seconded this in the beginning is in some of the areas kind of around the Foundry area, some of those roads that run behind the golf course back that way, there are a lot of gravel areas that the gravel kind of migrates to the street. And when I've been out there talking to neighbors, and maybe this is good, but the motorcyclists really hate it because they hit a corner and they're gone. So in a sense, it's slowing traffic down. But I see some of this happening, and what I was looking at is where any of this, not necessarily for beautification or anything like that, but more for how does that gravel affect the city's streets and how they perform, and also if you have a gravel apron or things like that, does that affect how a street might get water running under it or things like that? So that was my reason for that. It wouldn't be as deep a discussion as some of these other things, but I was just hoping to see that, and this was one area that they had talked to me about and showed me, that apartments that don't do this sort of thing. But the problem with that is it's not new building, it's what's already out there. So I would say if we find something that we say is adversely affecting what the performance of our streets or the longevity of our streets, then for at least an apron, we would require you to fix it sooner rather than later anywhere in the city. Thank you.
Alderman Coons.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have two questions for Director Hayes, and that is, how much time and resources would it require for your department to meet this directive? And help me understand, I think there's state statutes, or at least my belief is there's state statutes that limit our ability to limit or to address these particular issues. Can you expound on either one of those questions?
I can comment, but not with a high degree of confidence. I haven't given it a lot of thought in terms of timing, but I suspect there's 40 to 80 hours worth of work to evaluate ordinances and determine potential language and what the impacts of that may be on the community. I'm not aware of statutory restrictions, not saying they're out there. I think we certainly could require paved driveways. We probably can require garages if we so chose. I don't know that for sure. I do know Habitat has just, their board has just said we will build garages with all their houses starting in 2020. That's a board decision. They can change that decision at some point, but they have felt the pressure, I think, in other communities as well. Not that again, this would be broader than that. Obviously, it would be for all new construction. So that would be my answer. I don't have really solid answers for you on either of those.
That's helpful. If I could just comment, I mean, to me, I don't want to restrict information to older people, although I think 40 to 60 hours to me would be a burden I wouldn't want to put on the community development. I can understand having a conversation about this, and maybe in my mind the conversation should happen amongst older people and see if we can come to some agreement before we ask the department to put in considerable amount of work. And I think the conversation is great. I never want to. I am one. Never want to put stop a conversation, as people well know. And so I think a conversation might be helpful. But I wouldn't suggest that we direct staff to start researching it first.
Alderman Steele.
Yes, I guess I have a couple of initial questions for Director Kaiser. Aware safety concerns regarding driveways or a road where.
Yes, I've had instances where concerns about that have been brought to my attention, mainly from a combination, the motorcyclist, as Alderman Bates mentioned, non-motorized, bicycle, rollerblade, skateboarder type issues. Our current ordinance, as it relates to streets that are being constructed, so either resurfacing projects or reconstruction projects, require the hard surface apron within a year of construction. Most of those are done as part of our project, since occasionally a homeowner will opt to do it on their own. I have an interest in this issue in that regard because I've discussed it with Deputy Director Schmidt. There's a little bit of a hole as we've written that, because we reconstructed a street 3 years ago and there was a vacant lot on that street that was built since then, within the year, I think, after we built that street, and they have a gravel driveway. So it really doesn't fall within our ordinance one way or the other. So my interest from a street standpoint would be to have a hard surface apron at a minimum on all properties.
Alderman Coons?
Thank you, Mayor. My suggestion would be that this be taken up at Public Service and Safety as an item that can be discussed there with minimal investment on department heads, and come up with some concept, whether it's aprons or driveways or whatever it might be. And then from there, that committee could direct anybody to do anything. I feel more secure in that there'd be some conversation prior to involvement. Yet I support the concept of at least always looking. I'm always about looking at better solutions, and so I don't want to say let's not do that. I think there's a better vehicle to do it.
Alderman Boyette.
Instead of asking my question, I'm just going to agree with what Alderman Coons said. I would agree with that 100%.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Director Hayes.
If I could, these are not topics that we have not discussed that we have discussed at the staff level, particularly the gravel drive. And I can tell you what we experience is cars that begin to park off the driveway, and the requirement is they have to be on a hard surface, so they literally throw down gravel.
Absolutely.
And it becomes kind of an issue for us from a neighborhood investment perspective. The garages, as have been outlined, have not been a huge issue, but certainly in properties, particularly newer homes that have been constructed without them, they leave a level of lack of tidiness, if you will, in the yard. So I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing as well. I do certainly, as Alderman Boyette pointed out, it's an issue of when do we find time to get to these things. But certainly we have the opportunity, if nothing else, to provide some comment as to what our experience has been and the issues that we at the staff level have experienced with both of these issues, and what could be, without doing a lot of research, at least what potential solutions we may have that would certainly have to be investigated to see if they could be, first of all, that we're able to do those legally, and then certainly how they get incorporated into the ordinance. That whole formal process obviously takes time.
Anyone else? Comments, questions? Alderman Boyette?
So do we need to make a motion to put this to committee? Okay.
Well, motion is
You can refer it to committee. Sure.
I'd like to make that motion then.
referring the issue to committee or the council directive?
Or amend it?
It's really the same thing. Yeah.
Or just Alderman, if I may.
Yep.
We'll let Alderman Stevenson weigh in, and then we think about Alderman Stevenson.
Yeah. I'll make some comments, and I have to go get some stuff to eat. So, council directives were created as a mechanism to give council members a tool to monitor the progress being made on requests similar to what Alderperson Coons and Alderperson Boyette are asking now, and it comes what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And so we created and got the and I'm probably gonna so I would agree that Council Person Lendrum's request is typically done after we've had a lack of success in getting action or information from staff. And if that hasn't happened, then the council directive is probably appropriate. I would hope that what Alderperson Coons and Alderperson Boyette are suggesting here of doing some homework and at least doing some preliminary work, if that doesn't meet the expectation of the request, then putting it into a council directive is probably appropriate.
All right. Thank you, Alderman Stevenson. Any last words? Would the person who made the request like anything to end the discussion?
I do have emails that talk about the ordinance, or that I actually have the ordinance from Menasha. If anybody wants me to send it to them, they can review it themselves too, or we can wait until it goes on the agenda. It doesn't matter. So if you want to see it early, let me know.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Boyette, do you want to do anything, or you just want to vote on this motion?
Well, I guess I'm confused. How would I vote on this if I want it to go to a committee? I mean, I don't want to designate staff to work on this at this point. I would rather, like Alderman Coons suggested, that we try to get the preliminary work done first.
Okay. Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. I will take it as chairman of the Public Service and Safety. If this should not pass, that I will put it on our agenda as a discussion point and at least start the discussion, and then we'll see if we need the council from there.
So you can either vote on this, or you can, Alderman Boyette, or someone could do a motion to refer the issue.
I did.
Okay.
I did motion it,
Yeah,
but then we
I didn't
had
hear
more
you, so.
conversation.
Okay, so there's a motion to refer this issue to the Public Service and Safety Committee. Is there a second to that motion? The motion is seconded by Alderman Bates. So the motion and a second to refer this issue to the Public Service and Safety Committee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of referral, vote aye. All opposed, vote no. using the roll call machine. This is on referral to committee. Yep. The motion to refer to the Public Services Safety Committee passes by a vote of 9-0. Item number 13, unfinished business. Anyone have any unfinished business? You all did a great job in the parade. So those of you who were there.
Kind of one item.
That was, I'm sorry.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead, Alderman Kuntz.
just one, I guess one question from unfinished business. There's a development on Winneconne, the additional
Coral
Court, which my understanding was that they're going to start construction this spring, and I see some trees cut down, but I'm just curious if there's an update on what's happening with that.
Okay, Director Hayes will give us a little update on that project on Winneconne Avenue.
I was going to say they're done. If you saw the brush piles, but no, I'm kidding. So they haven't. Their plan is to start this summer. I don't have anything more than that in terms of exactly when, but it's my understanding that they will start this summer.
We just did ask them to take care of the lawn up front, as it was the neighbors contacting me, and the next thing we'll probably ask them is if they can get rid of the brush piles. The neighbors have told me the rabbit population has went up exponentially there since they started this.
Just on that note, I did actually, as you mentioned, we asked the developer to clean up the lawn and the brush piles, which we have not received any complaints on. But his intent is to take care of that right as they begin the project when they get the equipment on. So my sense is they will begin here shortly.
I suggested a big bonfire, but they will not let me. Fire department said no. Chris said no too, yeah. Okay. Item number 14 is under new business. Mayor Crawford's appointment to fill the unexpired term of Scott Belter on the Committee of Aging for a 3-year term that will expire September 22nd, 2022. That'll be considered at the June 19th meeting. Mayor Crawford's appointment to fill the unexpired term of Michael Hopkins on the Neenah Arts Council for a term that will expire April 2020. That will be considered at the June 19th meeting. Mayor Crawford's appointment to fill the vacancy created by resolution number 2019-14, which will restructure the Sustainable Neenah Committee that we did tonight. One term to expire in December 2020, one term to expire in 2021. One will be filled with the future Neenah representative, the other with a Neenah Joint School District representative. That will also be considered at the June 19th, 2019 council meeting. Those are all those items on new business that I will have for the next meeting. Item number D, give anyone a chance if they have any announcements or questions on anything at this point. Time would be the appropriate time. Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. This is kind of the offshoot of the council directive thing. If I have a request for the Sustainability Committee to look at doing how to arrange a energy study of Fire Station 31, how would Director Kaiser mentioned that the city garage had one done several years ago. How do I ask that they...
I believe the fire department had a study done by We Energies or something, but...
When I asked, they...
No? Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, how would... I think you could either ask the department, maybe to do that, or the committee. Just a request.
If I could, to me, Public Service and Safety Committee or any committee or any individual could ask that. The Sustainability Committee doesn't have the resources. What we need to do is turn to Dr. Kaiser and get that information. We can request it, but that's all we can do. We don't have the ability nor the ability to. We don't have any other information that you have.
Barry, do you have a suggestion?
Yeah, just a little background. The Teller Road study we arranged through our We Energies account rep. There was an outside firm that they brought in to do the study. There wasn't a charge for it. So it was relatively easy to arrange. It's just getting access to the building.
My suggestion would, the fire department is in charge of that building. I think a request of them, or if we make the request, Deputy Chief Voss would probably gladly fill it. So if you'd like, you could go on record making that request.
Yes, and the only reason I went to sustainability, because I remember a few years back when we had all the evaluations for the lighting in City Hall and things like that. I know sustainability was kind of helping out with making people do what they needed to do. And I remember John Alice, when he was in sustainability, he was gung-ho on a lot of things.
This hasn't gone well. Trying to get information, and I know it's not a comment about any individual. It's just information I have right now is like 2014 information, which is so outdated, and we have a gap between who gets the information and getting information to us, and they're just not. We're not on the same page. And again, that's not no comment on that. Every department's really busy doing their thing, and as we tried to get a better idea. We had one person who worked quite a bit on that, and the results weren't stellar.
Alderman Erickson?
Thank you, Mayor. I have talked to Director Kading about Community Fest, and I have a sign-up sheet for the aldermen to volunteer for 2-hour shifts during Community Fest at the information booth that I'd like to encourage everybody to at least fill in one of those shifts. If you'd like to bring a family member along, I did it last year. It was really a fun thing to do. So if you're available on July 4th, I have the sheet here, and I would encourage you to sign up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that information. And I know he did ask for volunteers. Taking a step back for a minute, so Alderman Bates, would you like me to sit down with the deputy chief and ask if they would do this, since they're the major tenant there? And then if for some reason they don't want to, we can deal with it in committee?
That would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Is that okay? Okay, good. I will do that. I'll report back to you, okay? To the council. Good. Alderman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. As a follow-up to the council directive discussion, and Alderperson Bates's, I'm hoping Alderperson Lendrum's directive request will follow that same path, in that if the referral to the committee doesn't meet the expectation, they get the final result, and we still have the council directive route. And that's typically what a council member will do, is say, I've asked for this information. I am not comfortable with what I've received. They actually have they have a little bit more discussion with the staff member. May still not have gotten the result that they would like. And then at some point it may become a council directive, so that if we have to expend more time to do what that individual council member wants, at least the council has a vote to say, enough's enough. We've gotten some information very similar to what Alderperson Bates is asking here. I think the information is probably attainable. We had that discussion in a workshop session. And if it becomes more work than what the staff member thinks is warranted, then it becomes a council directive, and then we have other ways of answering the questions.
Okay, thank you. The only other thing, I have is Patty and I had discussed, and I want to just get this out there so people can start thinking about it. Staff has to think about this upcoming schedule. The first meeting in July for the council meeting would be on July 3rd, which is the Lighted Street Parade night. And
we'd have a mobile meeting.
Oh,
we could do it right as we go down Commercial Street. Somebody brought that up, I think. But have the meeting on the floor. So our next council meeting will be June 19th, and then followed by committees are scheduled on the 24th and 25th. We will see what we get. If we get anything, if there's anything pressing, I've mentioned to the staff that if there's something comes up that is not of a timely matter, we won't, have to have a council meeting potentially. We do have some things scheduled, I believe, for the 24th or 25th, informational type issues at this point. So at least one of the committees may meet. So we are going to see if something would come up that has to be done. Invariably, I don't know if there's any liquor license problems or beer or bartenders or anything like that, but if something would have to be done and we would have to have a meeting, there was some discussion about Monday, July 1st. Patty, some people will be on vacation, not be unavailable. That's right. You blew it, Patty. But so we'll see how it goes, and we'll talk more about it on June 19th. Is that okay? But we are hopeful that we will not have to have a meeting the week of July 4th. Okay, that's what I just wanted to point out. So, okay, we'll try real hard, and people can enjoy the holiday too. With that, I just want to end by once again, Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to ask the other committee members or council members that when we have the noise ordinance go back to Public Service and Safety, if you have any concerns, and you did, please kind of forward them to Jerry. I guess he'd be a best, and at least we'll have a list of things that we need to discuss because, as I said, it's gone through us before, and we'd like to know what the others are.
Actually, it should be forwarded to either Adam or I.
Forward them to the city attorney or the assistant city attorney.
There you go. All right, thank you, Alderman Bates.
Or attend the meeting. Yes, that's always better.
All right. So, lastly, like I said, we had a great night. I think it was a wonderful showcase for our emergency services, our firemen and policemen. I want to thank the firemen and policemen that all came tonight. We had a packed chambers, which doesn't happen very often. And that just tells you how important family is. And, the families took the time out. And, us giving them the 40 minutes we gave them is very important to them. And they are not looking for recognition, but I think it's important that we do make sure that this community knows how fortunate we are to have such dedicated professionals. And then also, and I didn't get the chance to, but to thank the families, because being the family of a policeman, a fireman, an EMS professional isn't the easiest job at times. Being the spouse, being the family. I grew up in law enforcement with my dad. Mine wasn't easy for other reasons, because I, got speeding tickets and that. But it isn't easy, and these family members go through a lot. So seeing the gallery here to take time out to recognize what they did, and you might start seeing some more of that, not just in public safety. I've talked to some of the other departments, and when employees do something truly exceptional, truly out of the ordinary, truly above and beyond, I think it's important that department heads and this council, that we find out about it, that we learn about it, that we give the general public the opportunity to see these things. I get emails, texts, things like that almost every day on people pointing out the little things that employees are doing in the community. The garbage truck driver who stops and runs back 2 houses because some garbage is blowing around, and he just doesn't drive away. And I can cite a whole bunch of these things. People in the Park and Rec department who helped walk the lady who was having difficulty getting back to her car after she parked on North Park, but couldn't get back very easy, so he took time out. But bigger things than that, and I think promotions within departments and those types of things, the very least we can do as the elected body is give them an opportunity to be showcased for a little bit. Give that department head the opportunity to tell the good things that are happening, because many of us hear about some of the bad things that go on and some of the bad decisions and unfortunate things, but there's a lot of good things happening in this community. So I appreciate the council allowing the police department and fire department to take the time tonight to recognize those individuals. We thank them, and we really want them to all stay safe in their jobs in this world we live in. With that, I will end unless someone else has final comment. Is there a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Okay.
There's a motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Broadcasts of the City of Neenah Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin Fox Valley. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents via the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues or about these broadcasts by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or by completing the electronic feedback form on the city website, www.neenahgov.org. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.